Hi everybody, it's Sharon here from the Craft Cabin. I am going to do a little card for you, so hopefully you're going to enjoy it. So for my card class today, I am using Midnight by Paperartsy in the navy. Wow. I'm also using a Lavinia stencil called Ornate. I'm also using the new Topper and the new Zia. I'm also going to be using silver polish or polished silver and my Wow embossing pad. So I'm going to do a slightly larger card today, and I've got a bit of a thing about acetate at the moment. So I have got an 8x8 card blank, and then I've cut a piece of mirror card down to 6.5 inch square, and then a 6-inch piece of card, which is our own super smoothie white cardstock. This is 250 GSM, and a piece of acetate. Okay, so what we're going to start off by doing is taking our Midnight paint by Paperartsy. We are just going to pop a little bit onto our mat, and then we're going to give ourselves a real rough painting edge across here. So we want to cover that surface. I'm going to need a little bit more than that. Okay, I'm using a nice big flat wide brush. That's better. That's the better, huh? Okay, and this way I am giving it good coverage, but I've also got sort of some patchy areas, so that's what I'm after. Nice thing about Paperartsy paints is they dry really quickly. Okay, so let's make sure all your brush strokes are going in the same direction. Okay, we don't want to see bits going up here and bits going up there. Doesn't sit very comfortably with the eye. So let's just, hang on, there we go. And then just brush, whoops, brush that over, like, oh dear, sorry. Brush that like so. What do they say? Less haste, more speed. There we go. Make sure everything's going in the same direction. Okay, so there we have that. I'm just going to pop that to one side for the moment, and I'm just going to mop up my desk. So let's just mop up our paint there. If you've got a journal book to hand and a water spray, you can give that a spray with water and mop it up with a journal page. I haven't actually got a journal book to hand at the moment, so I'm going to have to mop it up with my baby wipes. Sorry everybody that's sitting there screaming at the screen at me. Right, I'm just going to wrap my brush so that I can go and wash that afterwards, because I don't have any water in here at the moment, and I want to keep that damp so that it doesn't dry out on my brush. So just clear that up, and then we're going to give our piece of card a blast with a heat gun, because you can see actually a lot of that has dried already. Can you see that, how quickly that dries? I just want to make sure it's really crisply dry. Apologies for the sound. Okay, that's all dry. Now, I'm quite new to doing videos, so I know that there is a function where you can pop your, you can spin it forwards so that you don't get the noise of the heat gun. But I need to learn to do that. So I'm learning all the time. Hopefully this one will be better than my first one. Right, so now I'm taking my Ornate stencil from from Lavinia. And I'm going to just place that on top. I'm going to add my Sweet Poppy tape, which I must say is the best. Okay, if you're going to buy any stencil tape, buy this one. There we go. Okay, so just a little bit on there just to keep my stencil where it should be. And then I'm going to take my Wow embossing pad and I'm going to squidge that all over the top. So as I'm doing it, I'm just giving it a little twist. Okay, that makes sure that lots of nice embossing ink all comes out. I'm not too worried, again, if it's going to be a little bit on the, what do I say, shabby. Shabby's probably not quite the right word, but just to give it that really nice, authentic look. Okay, so if there's some areas that haven't got a little bit, honestly, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so now let's lift that up and we should have that beautiful ornate, look at that, can you see that? Even if you were to get a clear and just let that dry, look how beautiful that pattern is. But I want this to coordinate, so I'm using In the Navy by Wow. Just sprinkle that on all over. And as I say, you could do this in a clear if you wanted to. You will find all these products in our website as well. Okay, so that's www.theforgetmenotcraftcabin with a K, craft with a K, cabin with a K, .co.uk or .com. Okay, now let's just give that a little flick so all the excess comes off, and now it looks like you've got a piece of flock wallpaper that you've made all yourself. I love it. This is one of my favourite stencils at the moment. So let's just take our stencil tape off of there, and then that's ready to be wiped and washed. Right, lid on so we don't knock it over, and we're going to go back to our heat gun. And I'm now going to heat this. Those of you that haven't used embossing powder with a heat gun before, what you need to do is angle it so that you can see where it's quite matte at the moment. Just going to give that a bit of a, it's quite matte at the moment, but it will go clear and shiny once it's heated. So bear with me just a moment whilst I do this. Hopefully you can see that changing. As it changes, what you do is you trace it across the page. Okay, don't let it heat in one area for too long, because then what will happen is your embossing will go dull and it will go flat. So we're just going to work that backwards and forwards, and as soon as you see it change, you just move it on. Once the gun heats right up, you can see how quickly this happens. I like to get my heat gun to temperature first before I actually put it onto my project. Okay, and then you can see it change really quickly, and there's no likelihood of you actually burning your paper. So now we're left with this beautiful, look at that beautiful flock look on our midnight background. Just lovely, just lovely. Right, okay, so now I'm going to take my acetate. She says I'm going to take my acetate. I'm not actually too sure where I put my acetate. So here we go. This is one of Sharon's. Hold on, here we go. Well, I've got it. Oh gosh, I nearly had a heart attack then. Where on earth have I put it? And it's not the easiest of things to find either. So here we go. So I'm going to attach this into place. So I'm going to take a piece of Sweet Poppy stencil tape and I'm just going to wrap it back on itself. So this is the same size as my 6-inch square that we've just been working on. I'm going to put that right in the middle there. Okay. So we're taking, first of all, Zia. Zia is one of the new Lavinia stamps. Now, I haven't primed these or anything yet, so hopefully they're going to play games with me. They're going to play ball with me. They're not going to play games with me. If they play games with me, I'm going to be in trouble. So I'm just inking that up. I think actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my VersaFine Claire. And we're going to use this in Twilight. Okay, no particular reason because we've got silver going on the top, so it really doesn't matter. But just make sure that ink pad goes to the stamp, not the stamp to the ink pad. Gently tap all over. Now, we do have to be careful because acetate is slippy. Okay, so I'm going to come down to about here. Once I touch that acetate, okay, I cannot move because it will slip. So I have to be so careful when I'm doing this. So careful. So do add a little bit of pressure. You want to make sure you get all the features of this stamp, but being very, very gentle, and then lift off. Okay, so I have actually got a little area here that hasn't taken as well, but hopefully because I'm using embossing powder, it will pick it up. Okay, so we're not going to panic just yet. Hopefully there is enough ink there for the embossing powder to attach itself, which it has. Give it a little flick. Okay, and then pop the powder back in, and now take a dry paintbrush, and if there's any areas there where you've got embossing powder and it shouldn't be, just flick it off. Okay, because at the moment we can get rid of that nice and easily. Once it's heated, we can't. So you can see there is a slight difference in those two eyes, but do you know what, for the sake of what we're doing, I'm not going to worry too much. Taking our heat gun, we are going to heat that back up again. Now I'm doing this on a low heat because obviously we're going on to acetate. It is obviously heat resistant acetate, otherwise it would be buckled by now. You'll soon know if it's not heat resistant. There we go. So again, exactly the same principle. As soon as that changes, you move it on. Right, so we've done that one. We're now going to take our topper. Okay, so now going to take the topper. I'm going to leave that there to be cleaned. So taking our topper, oops, I'm going to attach that to our pad. I'm going to take our twilight again, and we're just going to tap, tap, tap all over. And then we're going to add a hat. Just, I don't know how far I actually want to bring this down. So I'm going to go about there. Again, I've got it down. As soon as it goes down, be really careful. I'm going to give it a little bit more pressure this time, just so that I can get everything, all the detail. There we go. Okay, missed a little bit there, but as I say, I'd rather lose a tiny bit there than it swish. Okay, let's take this over to here and give it a flick. Right, remember what I said before, dry stencil, dry paintbrush, flick all that off anywhere where you don't want the embossing powder. Put that back into our pot and put the lid on so we don't knock it everywhere. Okay, so we're just going to heat that up now. Again, I'm using the low heat for this. And as soon as it starts to move, as soon as it starts to heat, you just move on. So now I have this really lovely outline. Let's take the back off. Okay, there we go. And you can see when you put that on the back there, how that really does come to life. Move that over a little bit so it's in the middle. There we go. So at this point, it's really up to you whether or not you want to colour it in. I will show you one that I did for Sweet Poppy, actually, with the poppy, where I coloured in the background. Can you see that? So that's the same principle. But what I'm going to do with this one, so if you do colour them in, you can do it with glitter. If you do it with glitter, you need to make sure that you leave it to dry. My first tutorial was actually on that. But I'm going to give the hat a bit of colour. So we're going to go for a really lovely bright pink. And I'm just using a Sharpie to do this. And you can flip it over to see what it looks like. There we go. Okay, and I think I'm going to do the whole hat like that. So let's colour this in. We do have the topper and Zia in stock now. Okay, and we also have the stencil, ornate stencil, back in stock too. In fact, you know what, I'm just going to go over and I'm going to colour all of this in. So the whole hat, we're going to go right the way along here. And up and round. And all I'm going to do on her face, I'm not going to try and colour her face in with Sharpies, because colouring isn't my forte. I don't want to make her look like a clown, but I am just going to colour her lips in. So let's just have a quick, this is a really quick, nice, simple way of doing it. Yeah, look at that. That's really going to pop on there. Okay. There we go. That's going to stay on this. So as that dries, that hopefully will get a little bit lighter. And then lip-wise, I think we'll keep her lips the same as her hat. So let's colour her lips in. Okay. Like so. And I'm just going to leave her like so. Now, if you felt that that was a bit dark, because probably some of you are saying, oh, well, I can't really see those colours on there. Okay, what you could do is you could add a piece of white behind it if you wanted to, a piece of white card. So let me see, I've got a spare piece laying around here somewhere. I don't want to cover up all my background, because that background is lovely, so I definitely want to keep that. But maybe if we cut a small piece of card down to, say, let's do a 4x4 to start with. Working off the cuff now, ladies, so bear with me. I had all this in my head. I hadn't actually done a sample, so even though it's pre-recorded, it's still live as such. Here we go. So we could pop that in the middle like so, which is going to leave us with a really lovely edge. So let's just layer this up first and see what we think, and then we could put her over top. Yeah, I quite like that, actually. I do quite like that. So let's go with this. Right, I'm going to use some glue just because it gives me a bit of wiggle time. I'm not the best at matching and layering. Not very good at anything really, am I? Right, okay, so here we go. This is going to go right in the middle, hopefully. Now, I'm looking through my phone as I'm doing it, so let's see. That looks okay to me. There we go. Right, now we could layer her up, but my Sharpies are going to be a little bit on the translucent side. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add glue to where I feel the darkest areas of my embossing are, because with acetate you need to be very, very careful. So we've got quite a bit of embossing powder along there. So let's just dot a little bit of glue along there. And then I think we can get away with a little bit along here and along the side of that and up the top here. Just adding a little bit of glue just to keep it where it should be. Okay, so let's marry that all up. And then we're going to stick that down. There we go. Okay, just bring that down slightly. Okay, there we go. Super. So what I'm now going to do, I'm just going to flip that over and just cut that down. Okay, like so. So that's straight. That's lovely. Okay. Right, so now I'm going to take a piece of mirror card that I'm now going to layer this onto. Again, stand up, look over onto where you're matting and layering, and then layer it down. Luckily enough, as I say, with glue, it does give you a little bit of wiggle time. Don't worry if you get a little bit that comes out the edge. This dries clear, but we'll just wipe it off like so, like there. And there we go. Let's just take that back. There we are. And then we've got an 8x8 piece of card, or card blank as such. And we're going to add that to our card blank. So again, glue on the back. This is my Cosmic Shimmer glue. It's an acrylic glue. Make sure your card is around the right way. That always helps. And then we are going to place that right in the centre. I'm just going to mark, just take that away a little bit there. Okay. And then once I've got clean fingers, I can actually go round with a baby wipe. And I'm just going to wipe that area slightly. There we go. Okay, just that little bit down there. I just need to, that's better. There we go. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, if there are any watching, is my little live pre-recorded video for you this evening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you all again. So next Monday is going to be another pre-recorded, and then I'll be back live with you the following Monday. So have a fabulous week, everybody. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Bye.